Welcome back to MiningIR CEO Catalyst Interviews. And with us today in the studio, we have Grant Mourre. Grant, welcome. This is our first go at this, so it's nice to have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
And how are things in Ontario?
Things are going well. Can't complain other than some. Be nice to have some better markets out there.
Yes, that's not just in Ontario though. That's all around the world. This mining market just seems to be wanting to spring ahead, and it's not happening yet. Well, we're excited today because you guys have some great news, and our investors actually that follow MiningIR aren't aware perhaps of the opportunities that lie with some of the properties that you guys are working on right now. So why don't we just jump right into it, talk a little bit about Lockerby East, its strategic significance. It's in that historic Sudbury Mining Camp. Can you discuss with our audience a little bit the strategic significance of this property?
Sure. So this was a property that we brought into the company back in 2014, and it is really our flagship project. And as you stated, it's in the Sudbury Mining Camp, which is arguably the top nickel camp in the world, and certainly the largest mining camp in Canada. And for the most part, Sudbury is really controlled by major companies, both Vale and Glencore. So there's not a lot of junior companies active in the camp. So we're one of the few companies actively advancing projects in the basin. When we acquired this project back in 2014, it had historic resources on the property. It was actually a past producer that was previously owned by both Falconbridge and a company called First Nickel. And we thought that this represented a really good opportunity to grow the company with the ability to transfer from an exploration-focused company into an actual producing company. And that was the goal of the company all along, was become a producer in Sudbury. We were fortunate at the end of the beginning of last year in January, to announce a deal that we had done with Vale Canada, one of the first that's been done in probably 20 years in Sudbury, where we brought in the adjacent property to our Lockerby East property, which essentially hosted the other half of the West Graham deposit that we didn't control. So that was a big accomplishment for us. And this basically brought in a large historic resource that was looked to be an open pittable resource close to infrastructure. And that's what we've been focusing our activities on for the better part of the last year and a half, is advancing that asset. And last year we did around a 14,000 meter drill program. And we needed to do that to do the infill drilling to take this historic resource, combine them together, and then be able to come out with a new updated resource. And that came out just a couple of weeks ago. And for us, that was a big accomplishment. From signing the deal to getting a resource out in less than 12 months was a lot of work done by the team, but in a really great accomplishment by the team.
That's great. And obviously, this is where the investors want to get a little bit more meat on the bones. They want some more information. Can we dig a little deeper into that West Graham and Aer-Kidd deposits?
Yes.
What insights do you have that you can share with us? What are the exploration advancements and resource definition of both the West Graham and the Aer-Kidd deposits?
Yeah, so the Lockerby East property hosts two historic deposits. There is what's called the West Graham deposit and the Aer-Kidd deposit. The West Graham deposit is a large, lower grade deposit at surface that can be mineable by open pit methods. And then the Aer-Kidd is a high grade deposit that at depth that was actually mined back in the 80s and 90s by Falconbridge. And there's historic resources still in the ground. So as I said, we did this resource, we did the diamond drilling, and then we did the resource update. And the West Graham deposit has an in-pit resource of just over 22 million tons at around about 0.55 nickel equivalent. So this is a large resource from surface down to 450 meters. In addition to that, there's out-of-pit resources, so it's a lot larger. There's another around 7 million tons closer to a 1% nickel equivalence that sits outside of this pit. And that was the focus of what we've been working on. And what we think is really attractive about this story is, and so much has to do about our location. Being close to infrastructure is key. There is a paved road to the site. We are close to major highways. There's power, and more importantly, there are two world-class mining companies with mills and smelters within trucking distance of our project. And that's not something you see everywhere else on nickel projects. So infrastructure is key for us. So we believe that we've got a really nice starter pit within this larger pit that can be put into production in a very quick time frame with minimal capex and very low operating costs. And by using contract mining and toll milling, we don't have to look at building a mill, dealing with tailings, the permitting that goes with that. There's no road infrastructure that needs to be built. This is something that can be brought into production in a relatively short period of time, and also with a capex that we think is actually something that you can raise the money for. A lot of the projects that are coming out now are hundreds of millions of tons, but they also have $1 billion+ capexes. And we're kind of at the other end of the spectrum, looking at something a little bit smaller and more focused, but also at a lot lower capex and operating costs.
So that's super exciting. One of the things that you didn't touch on that I'd love to know a little bit more about, in that you're obviously in one of the biggest mining areas in Canada. What does that mean for the human resource component of being able to actually go through this exploration?
Yeah, I mean, Sudbury's got about 150 years of mining history. So everything you need to build a mine, operate a mine, is within 30, 40 kilometers of us. And, that's just, that's what makes this place special, is that it is a mining community. The social license for mining is here because that's what the community is. The community buys into mining. They understand that that's the lifeblood of this city. You have all the infrastructure that you need, from contract miners to suppliers to trucking companies, and also the major companies as well. So we feel that gives us a leg up in this, and it's really what makes our opportunity quite unique.
Well, definitely a competitive advantage to be in a jurisdiction that is fully supported by all levels of government, where the educational curve is nowhere near what it is like in some of the other areas in the world where this kind of exploration is going on. I want to switch gears a little bit. You guys also have another project, the Muskox Project. What's the potential exploration strategy there, and how is it a significant part of the SPC Nickel exploration portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, that project is probably the opposite of what I've just been talking about. It is a true kind of greenfields, blue sky potential project. And, as a geologist, it's one that's quite dear to my heart because, it's located in Nunavut, but it's, has world-class potential. And there's not very many camp scale nickel opportunities left in North America. And in my opinion, this is arguably the best that's out there. It's a very large property. We control over 65,000 hectares of ground, so 650 square kilometers. It's located in Nunavut, and it has all of the geological characteristics that you would want to see in a very large nickel system. So the upside potential of this property is not to find a deposit. It is that you could find the next nickel camp. And it's got the scale, it's got the geology for it, and there's not very many opportunities like that. Now, it is remote. That's certainly something that you always have to take into consideration, but it is a real world-class exploration project.
And the timing couldn't be better with the political changes in Nunavut. with a huge focus on being able to capitalize on the mining for the population at large. The support must be great that you're going to receive there as well.
Yeah, I mean that was a great announcement. I think it was last week, the devolution of the basically the federal government out of Nunavut, and basically now the people of Nunavut control their resources, and they have the say in when it comes to permitting, when it comes to mining. But not only that, is that they will be sharing have an even larger part of the bounty that will come from the ground. And having been up there several times, it's a truly spectacular place that's got tremendous upside. But now those decisions will be made by the people that own the land instead of being made by the federal government. So I think Nunavut's got a huge future ahead of it, and we're happy to be part of it and be involved.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that being close to the Yukon mining sector, they don't need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of those things are there, and you'll be a beneficiary of what has already been put forward in Yukon. So it's super exciting to be in Nunavut right now, and definitely that was last week. That definitely put it on the radar as a up and comer in the mining sector.
Definitely.
So we know that nickel's on the critical minerals list. It's essential for decarbonization, and it's one of those things that Canada has been known for time eternal. It begs the question: what sets SPC Nickel apart from other exploration plays? Why park my money with SPC Nickel?
Well, good question. I think we offered kind of two really great opportunities, and they're at the different end of the spectrum. On the blue sky exploration front, which is something that the market always likes, is exploration success. And the Nunavut project, the Muskox project, offers that. The success that can be had up there is huge. The upside potential is huge, and exploration potential is always something that's very attractive. But on the more, on the forefront that we're working on now is advancing an asset, and we have positioned ourselves with a fairly robust resource in an established camp that we think can be fast-tracked into production. And also, given the infrastructure that we have around us, that certainly reduces the capital costs that go into the project. We don't have to reinvent a lot of things because everything is already here. Like I said, we are shipping distance to mills, and these mills are currently running at under capacity. So there's opportunities there. Whereas in some other areas around Canada where there's some new projects coming online, you have to build all that infrastructure right down to the road network, the power network, even the people required to operate and maintain those projects. Right. For us, it's all within the community that this project is in. And that to me is the big difference. I think that there is a certain benefit or upside that our project presents because we believe that it's something that can get over the finish line into production in a relatively quick time period.
Yeah, that's definitely the Golden Goose, is getting to that point where you become either a producer or exciting enough for another company to look at you guys. So that's
yeah, and we still retain all of the exploration upside on the properties. So the idea is to maybe start focusing on something a little bit smaller that we think that we can get over the finish line, and that would be a smaller starter pit within this larger pit. You get that pit up and running where you're generating cash flow into the company, which is rare for an exploration company to generate revenue, but you start to generate cash flow. What you choose to do with that cash flow is up to the company. You can deploy it back into the project. You can deploy it into other projects. It gives you a lot more flexibility, and
it buys you a lot of time as well.
Yeah, and the project still has additional resources that would allow you to expand the pit. There's underground opportunities. There's lots of exploration opportunities on the Lockerby East property. So we're kind of taking the view of maybe starting a little bit smaller, but still having all that potential there.
That's super exciting. Let's bring it back a little closer to what's going on in 2024. What catalysts should investors be putting on their radar? What does an investor need to know to see what 2024 is going to be looking like?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting year. Obviously, a lot is tied to the markets. I mean, you can't ignore where we are in the markets, but also the nickel price. So we do have to be cautious of where we deploy our capital that we do have. Under our agreement with Vale, we do have certain timelines and time milestones that we do have to meet. So we need to keep moving the West Graham project ahead. The next steps for us will be most likely either a PEA or a pre-feasibility study. So that will require some additional drilling to move some of the inferred resources into the indicated category. And also some technical studies that you need to have in order to complete some of those a feasibility study. So such as metallurgy, baseline water sampling, aquatic studies, things like that we'll also be looking at this year. We do have a plan to get back up to the Muskox Project in the summer, so that will be on the radar probably in July, August, and that's what we have looking forward for 2024.
Excellent. Well, our investors will know to go to your website. They've got your ticker symbols here for them to look at. Anything else that you want to share with the investors before we wrap this one up?
Other than I think that we're in the nickel space, we're a company to definitely keep an eye on. We, like a lot of nickel groups, have been kind of hit pretty hard in the market, but with this recent resource out, this Lockerby East property has contains over 400 million pounds of nickel equivalent metal in the ground. With our current market cap, that's at like less than a penny per pound. So, there's huge upside in us. And, even though the nickel market is down, it will turn around. And when it does, the world is going to be looking for, class 1 nickel in stable jurisdictions. And we think Sudbury is the place. And, we're going to be well positioned to take advantage of that.
Well, this has been absolutely super exciting. I'm definitely going to go and take a deeper dive into it and consider it. Grant, thank you so much for joining us here at MiningIR, and we're looking forward to catching up with you in about 6 months just to see how this year is rolling out for you.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.